I don't need to tell you that 2020 was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad year. Bushfires, pandemic, Rudy Giuliani, you know the drill. So how did we try to escape from all of this? Well, some of us got really into gardening or watching television programs or baking. I got good at Sudoku. But many of us retreated to the pure escapism, that is video games, whether we were gardening in our isolated islands, okay? Or maybe we were experiencing the compelling narrative of a world ruined by a global infection. That's really on the nose. Or maybe we, come on, video games! Now, it might feel right to just want to forget that this year ever happened, but there were very valuable lessons that we could take from 2020, especially in the world of gaming with two news stories. We simply cannot choose to ignore them. For one, 2020 really highlighted the amount of crunch that is present in our industry. Now, it is common practice for studios to make their developers work excessive overtime in the weeks, sometimes even months before a game's completion. But what if that crunch period went on and on and on with no end in sight, much like a Christopher Nolan film? This is what we got with Cyberpunk 2077. This game was originally supposed to come out in April 2020, but then it got delayed to September, and then to November, and then finally to December 10 ? We are recording this on the 8th of December, otherwise known as the 283rd day of March. So there is a non-zero chance that this game may be delayed once more. It would be incredibly on brand if it were. Cyberpunk's developer, CD Projekt Red, has had a mandatory 6-day working week in place since September, and there are reports that people there have been crunching since at least the start of the year. Now, the method of acting may work for someone like Adrian Brody, but you do not need to have a dystopian work environment in order to create a dystopian open world game. And here is the real irony here. CD Projekt Red had previously been proud of a non-obligatory crunch policy, going so far as to twice committing in 2019, twice, not to overly crunch its workers. That pledge ended up about as well as some of our New Year's resolutions for this year, including those relating to travel and to cutting down on the beers. I highlight Cyberpunk 2020 here, but almost every game goes through some form of crunch, whether they be big AAA titles or smaller indie efforts. This was made even worse with the global pandemic and the need to work from home, especially for those whose work computers are in their bedrooms. Although at least those people had the choice to sleep in their beds as opposed to under their desks. 2020 also saw a resurgence in the Me Too movement within the gaming industry. Now, before we go on, I am aware of the optics of yet another dude grossly simplifying the issue of toxic masculinity in the gaming industry. This is me checking my privilege at the door. In the months of June and July, there were an avalanche of stories from people, mostly women, who had been discriminated against, harassed, or even assaulted by people in positions of power. Thanks to their stories, many lecherous leaders, streamers, and esporters lost their jobs, their Twitch accounts, and any ability to attend a gaming convention without being side-eyed to death. One company that came under particular scrutiny during this time is Ubisoft, the company that gives you all the towers in the world just so long as you don't use them to climb through the glass ceiling. Past and present employees came with many stories about their time at Ubisoft involving racism, sexism, homophobia, bullying, and manipulation. It's almost as if Ubisoft was intentionally trying to complete toxic workplace bingo. Even worse, Ubisoft reportedly ignored many of the claims made by its employees. I was wondering where the name Ubisoft came from. Turns out that's how HR responds to its employees' claims. So your manager wants you to wear tighter shirts? Pfft, Ubisoft. One person in particular I want to talk about is Creative Officer Serge Asquet. He had a lot of power within Ubisoft. He basically had the power to greenlight or kill off any project within the company at a whim. So here are just some of the stories of his behavior at Ubisoft as reported on by Bloomberg Businessweek. He was infamous for what colleagues described as growling. He sometimes held business meetings at strip clubs, a habit that his deputies began to adopt. Asquith would promote many of his strip club buddies to creative directors, a group composed almost entirely of men. Asquith pushed subordinates to drink excessively and gave colleagues cakes containing marijuana without their knowledge. Wow. At this point, I'm convinced that Asquith is actually the background character in an 80s frat house film that has somehow managed to escape into the real world. I'm surprised that under his stewardship, the Assassin's Creed franchise didn't devolve into one big wet t-shirt contest. Asquith and 2 other Ubisoft executives resigned from their posts after all these stories started coming out, and more Ubisoft leaders left the company throughout the year as a result of their behavior being called out. However, it's going to take a long time before all the toxic elements are taken out of Ubisoft and out of the gaming industry as a whole. And it's on that appropriately bleak note that we ended this 2020 wrap in video gaming news. COVID has revealed a lot of deep-seated flaws both in society and in the gaming industry. However, with COVID, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are lessons to be learned from this year, and if we learn them, society will become all the more better as a result. I sincerely hope that we can say the same thing about the gaming industry. Otherwise... And that is everything that has happened in the world, ever. That is not water right there.